fascinating. Power-hungry emperors, global dominance, and gladiators fighting to the death. Just behind me here in the Roman Colosseum. Rome, the eternal city, at the center of our world for so many centuries. There's no end to the stories and legends that surround it. But perhaps the most fascinating stories are often untold. These are the stories of the stone sentinels that guard our world's greatest cities, hidden away in plazas and public squares all around the world. Obelisks! The Egyptians called them techenu. The Arabs called them salas. But the Greeks called them obelisks. Greek for a skewer, like a shish kebab. I know it's crazy, but it's true. Before we get on with the lesson, let's review what an obelisk actually is. Obelisks are tall, with 4 sides, and a pyramid on top that ends in a point. Woo! Most ancient obelisks are monolithic, which means they're made from one giant piece of stone. That was really hard to do, so most modern obelisks are made of a bunch of stones stacked on top of each other. Good examples of modern obelisks are like this one in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and this one in Washington, D.C. in the US. Obelisks were carved on orders from pharaohs in ancient Egypt, cut, shaped, and crafted by hand to commemorate religious events. They were usually erected in pairs, and less than half the obelisks in the world remain in Egypt today. Yes, you heard correctly. There are more obelisks outside of Egypt than there are in Egypt today. Where'd they all go? Here at Travelparkourist, when we don't have the answers, we take to the lab. Our top secret: find it, ask it, test it, try it. Investigative research hub. Let's go to the lab. We're here at our lab to speak with Dr. Bob Brier, Mr. Mummy himself. Dr. Brier is one of the premier Egyptologists of our time, author of more than 10 books on Egyptian history, famed lecturer, and authority on all things Egyptian. He was kind enough to help us tell our Travelparkourist story. How did Rome end up with so many obelisks? How did they get there?
The Romans conquered the Egyptians, but they really admired the obelisks. So they brought them back as trophies of war. There are more obelisks in Rome than any other city in the world.
So now we know, Rome is home to the most obelisks in the world, 13. 8 are the real deal, brought from Egypt by emperors who wanted a bit of Egypt's glory. There are 5 others built by Romans to try and capture some of the magic of the Egyptians. Impressive, but not the real deal. Close, but no techenu. Of all the ancient Egyptian obelisks in foreign cities, this one here, at the heart of Christianity, is perhaps the most visited, and perhaps the most restless. This sucker has been around. Let's head to the lab to find out more. The Vatican Obelisk was originally quarried in Egypt over 4,000 years ago. This obelisk has no hieroglyphs, ancient Egyptian writing, so we know little about the pharaoh who carved it. At some point just before the current era, the year in which we stop using BCE and start using the term CE to mark years, this obelisk ended up in Alexandria, in the Egyptian port where the Nile meets with the Mediterranean. In the year 37 CE, the Roman Emperor Caligula has the obelisk brought to Rome, to his mom's house, and placed it right there in the garden. I can't imagine moving a single block of granite that weighs over 300 tons and stands over 8 stories tall. Obelisks can make people crazy. Later, it was moved to a Roman circus, Latin for circle, where it watched over events like chariot races. It stood overlooking the Roman circus until Pope Sixtus V got the idea to move it to the center of St. Peter's Square at the Vatican, where it still stands today. Sixtus must have been a little obelisk crazy too, because it took over a year to move, and to re-erect the Vatican Obelisk was no easy task. These things can be ginormous, weighing up to 400 tons. That's 5 space shuttles and 80 elephants. As tall as a 10-story building, standing in plazas and public squares thousands of miles from where they were originally erected. How do these obelisks stay upright? If you don't know, task! That's right, we're going back to the lab! Dr. Brier, what do you think keeps an obelisk standing upright?
Good question. In ancient Egypt, the answer is nothing but balance. There's nothing holding it on its pedestal. It's just balanced perfectly, and that's what keeps it up.
Do we have any architectural papyri of how obelisks were erected?
No, the Egyptians never left records about anything like that. We don't have records for the pyramids. We don't have records for how they erected obelisks.
Sphinx, pyramids, or obelisks? In your mind, which do you think were the hardest to erect?
Oh, I think by far the obelisks. It took more precision. They're a different kind of thing. For example, the Sphinx doesn't really impress me. It's large, but it's just a statue. You don't have to engineer it. With the pyramids and the obelisks, that's real engineering. So the pyramids are a great achievement, but the obelisks are so precise to be able to stand just by balance that it's really amazing.
And finally, a question we ask all our contributors. What would an expert like you want a kid like me to know about Egyptian obelisks?
I think the important thing is that how difficult it was to carve them and erect them. I think we have to have a kind of admiration for the ancient Egyptians. They were really great engineers.
Okay, that's all the questions we have. Thank you so much.
A pleasure, Callum. Safe travels and go visit obelisks.
Should you find yourself in Rome, New York, Paris, or London, take some time to seek out these glorious obelisks, sometimes hidden in plain sight. Think of the mysteries that surround them, the near impossible journey they took to get here, and how they speak to us in culture and literacy 4,000 years later. This is Callum signing off from Travelparkourist. What? Yeah? Okay. All right. Sorry, that was the lab. Gotta go.
I wouldn't mind another light in the sky. So Beetlejuice, supernova, anytime you like. The present has me choking in its grasp. I've been first staring 600 years into the past. I wouldn't mind a soundtrack for my life. I'd walk in tempo and harmonize all the time. Idle chatter, lack of focus dims the volume down of nature's song.